Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, but I bet it was for a significant amount of money.
Still ridiculous.
Yeah, but fun. I'd watch it. Look, Jake Paul wants to test himself against actual, not just world champion, but one of the greatest of all time.
Really fought, and it wasn't fixed. Jake Paul would not survive 45 seconds.
I don't know about that. I think it would take a few rounds.
Really?
But yeah. First of all, Jake is a lot bigger. Jake's a lot bigger.
But what way would they fight?
Well,
it's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started up. I would have tell you, I'm not.
Joe Rogan reacts Joe Rogan. When I first heard Jake Paul was calling out Francis Ngannou after the Tank Davis fight got canceled, I thought, that's insane. We're talking about one of the scariest punchers in combat sports history. Francis hits like a sledgehammer, man. You don't play around with someone like that. If Jake really goes through with it, it's borderline reckless. Still, I can't lie, it would be a massive spectacle. The whole world would tune in just to see what happens. Fight announcement Fallout host, Boxing Insider. When the exhibition with Gervonta Davis fell apart due to Davis's legal situation, Jake Paul's camp scrambled for a replacement. One of the names that popped up was none other than Francis Ngannou, the former UFC heavyweight champion. Ngannou isn't just famous, he's terrifying. He's a crossover boxer now, and his size, power, and raw presence make him one of the most dangerous men alive when it comes to striking. Michael Bisping on the size gap. Michael Bisping. The size difference in this rumored matchup is just wild. Jake was supposed to fight Gervonta Davis,
I'm just interested. It makes no sense for me. It's not my what I'm looking at right now.
Joe Rogan was stunned after hearing that Jake Paul had offered Francis Ngannou the chance to be his next opponent following the cancellation of his fight with Gervonta Davis. On his podcast,
Wait. And now suddenly he's talking about Francis Ngannou? That's going from one extreme to the other. We're not just talking about skill or experience here. We're talking about mass, reach, and pure danger. If that fight actually happens, Jake's moving from facing someone 5'6" to a 6'4" monster who punches through walls.
He used to call Francis. It says, "Hey, we need your help. We need an opponent for Jake. Tank is out." And Francis says, "All right." And Francis says, "Well, how can I help you?" And Keekser says, "Well, we're looking at an opponent for Jake. Tank Davis is out." And Francis says, "All right, but specifically, how can I help you?" Keekser takes a third swing at the bat. He says, "Well, we need an opponent. We need a boxer. We need a partner. We need somebody to fight Jake. Tank is out." And Francis asks him again, "Okay, what?"
That's a ridiculous leap and challenge. Francis Ngannou responds, Francis Ngannou. Honestly, when Jake's team reached out, it surprised me. It came out of nowhere. They were serious, but it didn't fit my goals at the moment. Yes, money was mentioned, but for me, it's not about the payday. It's about the fight making professional sense. Jumping in as a late replacement for someone like Gervonta Davis? That's not logical. It's two totally different worlds, and I didn't see the point.
And rescheduled, and now we have potential opponent names and some people being ruled out coming into today. This is not a joke. It was said by Mike Coppinger and others that the number one candidate to replace Tank Davis in a Jake Paul fight, probably on a different date, was going to be Francis Ngannou. What the But we have an update on that and other potential names that Jake could fight. Again, I think on a separate date, and why I think the Jake and Tank fight is completely off. No more, maybe, no more. We don't think it'll happen.
Daniel Cormier's warning, Daniel Cormier. I don't think Jake's call-out was about real competition. It felt like publicity. He might not understand what he's asking for. Francis Ngannou isn't just powerful. He's one of those guys who can punch straight through gloves. In MMA, his knockout power is legendary. And in boxing, with smaller...
Who's 58, Anderson Silva, who was way past his prime, people like Nate Diaz, who were way smaller. Gervonta Davis really did take the piss. I mean, that was just the craziest shout ever. To go from fighting Gervonta Davis, way smaller, to now fighting boxing Francis Ngannou. I mean, listen, if he does it, fair play. But I just call number one bullshit on this brother, because I don't see this happening. No.
This is number one bullshit.
I just don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Nate Diaz, yeah, 100%. I mean, he beat him once already. I'm sure Nate Diaz would love to get another big payday, because obviously boxing on Netflix and going up against Jake Paul, given his success, given the name that he has, and given the magnitude of his events, Nate Diaz will get paid an absolute fortune once again. We know that it wasn't too long ago, Jake Paul was talking about boxing Anthony Joshua. And that never came to fruition. There's absolutely no way he would box Anthony Joshua. If he did, if he was to do something like that, whether it be Anthony Joshua or Francis Ngannou, I'd give him his props. I'd give him his credit. And you never know. Maybe he would do it just for the clout. Because in many ways it would be, sorry about the airport notifications, it would be, an admirable thing to do. And it will be Jake Paul taking on
gloves and cleaner contact, it becomes even more dangerous. If Jake steps in that ring thinking it's just another big-name fight, it's going to be a very short night for him. Analysts weigh in boxing. Analyst, a fight between Jake Paul and Francis Ngannou, especially on short notice, makes little strategic sense. Davis pulled out late, so Jake's team went looking, but calling Francis was a reach. Even Ngannou said it didn't fit his career path. From a preparation standpoint, Jake wouldn't have enough time to train for a heavyweight with that kind of power. Some analysts are comparing the idea to Tyson Fury versus Ngannou, another crossover fight that shocked everyone. Fury was a world...
Jake to replace Gervonta. I'm like, who's Jake? I was so confused, I wasn't expecting that at all. And he said, yeah, Jake Paul, he's fighting. And I'm like, no, bro, come on. Don't disrespect me like that. And then they even say they even come out after and say, and what if the number are good? He sent out some number. I'm like, it's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started talk. I would have tell you, I'm not just interested. He make no sense for me. It's not my
champion, and still admitted Francis gave him one of his hardest fights in years. Now imagine Jake Paul, who's not even a natural heavyweight, trying to survive those same punches. It's spectacle over sport, and that's exactly why people would still watch.